Today we are going to continue our conversation on forgiveness. We came from the book of Matthew, the 18th chapter. And I'm going to read a couple verses. I'm not going to read, it was 18, verse 21 through 27 is what I'm going to read. I'm going to take a different look at forgiveness because I want to be fair to everyone. I don't want to be one-sided. I got to be honest and realize that everybody don't want to forgive. People find it very difficult to forgive. And I know that's because they've been hurt. And we're gonna focus on that because I want you to understand that the Bible understands about being hurt even when it talks about forgiveness. And the Bible deals with this. So listen up. Chapter 18 of Matthew, the book of Matthew. We're going to start at verse 21. It comes from the NIV version. It's the parable of the unmerciful servant. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother when he sins against me? Up to 7 times? And that's very generous. We're going to come back to that verse a little bit later. I want to deal with something on that verse a little bit later. I don't want to jump to it right now. Verse 22, Jesus answered, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. And that's just a figurative number. It's not literal. I don't want you to start counting how many times you forgive somebody. All right? You're going to mess up right there. It's a figurative number. In other words, just keep forgiving people. And we're going to talk about that too. Because, well, I don't want to give it away just yet. But the number of times you forgive someone could also cause certain things to happen with you and the person that you're forgiving. That's all I want to say on that. Verse number 23. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. As he began the settlement, a man who owed him a lot of money, 10,000 talents, was brought to him. Since he was not able to pay, the master ordered that he and his wife and his children and all that he had be sold to repay the debt. That sounds harsh. It does. At the same time, the man who borrowed the money from him owed the man his money. I mean, so now it doesn't sound as harsh. If someone owes you money, right, and they don't pay you back, and I think we've all been there, some of us may be there now. You know those people, right? They're ducking and dodging you, right? Normally you would see them on a regular basis, right? Hey, Joe, how's it going? Now you can't find Joe. You loan him a nice amount of money. Your wife told you not to. In the back of your mind, you said, you know, I can't do it. We need the money. But you were friends. Could have even been your relative. And you loaned the money. Just say $500. That's a decent amount. I know people who loan more. You loan the money. Now it's time to pay back. Guess what? You can't find them anywhere. They don't return your phone calls. You can't get in touch with them. Nobody comes to the door when you go over there. Right? Right. And so your feelings change. That $500 that you loaned for 2 weeks, that they say they'll pay back, you know you need that to pay your mortgage, right? Or your car note. Now you can't pay yours. Now the repo man after you. How you feel now? You're angry. And forgiveness, can we be real? It's not even in your vocabulary. And so I want to talk about that. Let me move on. But I just wanted you to know that that man who wanted to settle his debts had a right to have those family members of that man's sold into slavery to repay his debt. He had every right to. Verse 26, the servant fell on his knees before him. Be patient with me, he begged, and I will pay back everything. Verse 27, the servant's master took pity on him, canceled the debt, and let him go. Amen. Well, last time I talked about understanding the power of forgiveness. I had to make that point because as a Christian, I want you to understand that in order for you and I to move on with our lives, we need to forgive people of their debt. But today, I want to help those of you who are having a very difficult time trying to forgive people or a person who has done something horrific to you. I want to deal with that because I think in order for me to be able to comprehend how you feel, I need to understand what's really going on in your mind. And so I want to talk about forgiveness being put on trial. I'm putting forgiveness on trial. In other words, I'm going to show you some reasons today. I know I'm going to seem very hypocritical. I am. Because today I'm going to be showing you reasons why you should not forgive people. Yeah. Some of you like that. Oh yeah, I can hear you now. Go preacher, go preacher, go. Well, I just want to do what I need to do. I want to show you that I'm going to work both ends of the spectrum here. Last week, I talked about forgiving folks. I showed you scripture. This week, I'm going to show you why you shouldn't forgive folks. Okay? You know I'm going to get back to forgiving people in the end, right? But at least I want to just show you some things. Again, there are people who just have a very difficult time forgiving folks. There's a book that I read in grad school by a man named Robert Jeffress. It's called When Forgiveness Doesn't Make Sense. When forgiveness doesn't make sense. And a lot of times, the truth of the matter is, forgiveness a lot of times doesn't make sense. How can you forgive someone after they've done you wrong? Okay, I know there are some of you out there like me, Christian folks who want to forgive. But let's be honest here. Let us put the shoe on the other foot. Let's pretend it's you who have, been abused, or it's you who have been falsely accused. you lost your job because somebody lied on you. You have children, you have a spouse, now you cannot provide for them. Your lifestyle as you know it is over. And the preacher tells you, well, you know, Jesus said you need to forgive. I don't think you're listening to the preacher at that moment. Only thing you want to do is get revenge. Can I get an amen? I just want us to be honest here. And so I'm putting forgiveness on trial. Matter of fact, in the book here, it talks about a man who had a very difficult time trying to forgive. It talks about someone who was in the concentration camps, a Jew back in the day during World War II, about how he now was in the concentration camp. And Jews, you know, just like African Americans were victimized, can I put it that way, by the Nazis. Although the African Americans were victimized by the Caucasians here in America, we were yet still victimized. But this Jew who was in the concentration camp, he worked, his duties was to work in a hospital. And to make a long story short, he was in the hospital and someone asked him to go in and tend to a patient there, another Nazi. And this Nazi was a soldier who was hurt. He was to the point of almost death. And so the Jew was told to sit at his bedside and to comfort him. Mind you now, the Jew is in a concentration camp. He's not being comforted. Matter of fact, it is the Nazis who were killing the Jews. Well, that soldier who was in bandages, he had to hold that soldier's hand and comfort him. And the soldier, even though he was near death, he realized that that was a Jew who was there. And he told the guy, he said, look, I have a confession to make. I have to tell it to a Jew because I need to be forgiven of what I've done to the Jews. Well, the Jew was there, he was listening. And so the Nazi began to rumble off about how one time he had been told to put a bunch of Jews in a house, a big house, and to pack them in. Men, women, children, old folks, didn't matter, pack them in. And then once they put them in, they poured gasoline all over the building. Now mind you now, this Jew who's holding the man's hand, who's listening to how this man has treated other Jews. And the Nazis said to him, we had guns ready to shoot anyone who tried to run out of their house. He said other soldiers got grenades and threw it at the house to blow it up, to catch it on fire so we can burn everybody up. And anyone who tries to run, shoot them dead. I could only imagine that that Jew holding that hand had to be squeezing that man's hand at that time, listening to all the things, the terrible things that they did to the Jews. After the Nazi had finished telling the story, he asked the man, would you forgive me, please? And the Jew, this is what the author said, the Jew let his hand go, looked at him for a while, got up, and walked out the room. Didn't say a word. The author goes on to say that this Jew told this story to other people, and he was he was confused. He said, I just could not do it. I know that it is right to do, but I just could not do it. How many of you feel the same way? You've been abused, you've been victimized, you've been lied on, you've been cheated on by your spouse or your partner, and you just can't do it. Well, again, I want to focus on why you should not forgive. The number one reason why you should not forgive is this. And this is coming from the author. And he says, forgiveness denies the seriousness of sin. It denies the seriousness of what you had to endure. Right? Because all you have to do is say a word, I forgive you, that forgive part, and you act like, you're supposed to act like, well, okay, we're good now, everything's over. Right? So he's saying this is one of the reasons why many people don't want to forgive, because they don't want it to be over. They don't want it to end so abruptly. They don't want to feel as if nothing happened because of what was done to them. I understand. Somebody needs to pay the price for what was done. I feel you on that. And so this is why the author says you should not forgive, because somebody has to pay the price. Some of you saying, yeah, I agree with you. I truly agree. What was done to me, somebody need to pay for that. They need to go to jail. There needs to be some type of compensation for what I've experienced. I lost my job, falsely accused. I need to get my back wages back, my pay back. Something needs to happen. I understand. There needs to be some type of retribution here. Payback time. But I got to say this. Forgiveness has nothing to do with retribution. Forgiveness has nothing to do with being compensated for your wrong. I need you to know that. See, what I'm showing you is why you shouldn't forgive based on the author, which he makes a valid point. But I want you to understand at the same time that forgiveness doesn't have anything to do with the other thing. I told you I'm going to still talk about forgiveness, right? But I'm also going to show you why you shouldn't forgive. I'm going to show you why you shouldn't forgive, but then I'm going to show you again why you should forgive. Okay, I told you last week that forgiveness is the thing that sets you free. Forgiveness prevents us from dwelling on past troubles. That's what it does. It does. The story that I read in the Bible, Matthew chapter 18, about the unmerciful servant, about the man who was owed his money, right? He was owed money, a lot of money. In this story right here, it shows that this man did two things. He forgave the man who owed him the debt, right? He forgave him for not paying him the money back in a timely manner, right? Can I say something right here? Yes. He didn't have to go any further. He could have just forgave the man for not paying it back in a timely manner, right? Let me help you out here. Some of you act like you don't understand. When you and I owe creditors and we late, 30, 60, 90 days late. And they tack on all them late fees, right? How about the bank account? Anybody ever had a non-sufficient fund? Hey. And you know, you still trying to write checks out, knowing you ain't got no money in the bank. And them NSF keep piling up. Now, the $20 that you owed initially for not having the money in the account, now it's about $100. The bank has every right to get all that back from you. But this king, he did something that many of us would not do. He took it a step further. Not only did he forgive the man for not paying him back in a timely manner, he forgave the man's debt in its entirety. Okay, I know you're saying, man, you must be crazy. I understand if you didn't want to do that. If somebody owe you money, look, you want it back, right? But can we be honest? The people who borrowed money from us, who hadn't paid it back, chances are, can we be real? You ain't gonna get it back. Amen. You're not gonna get it back. Some of you say, you're right, I never did get that money back that I loaned. To this day, it's been 20 years. I'm one of them. I loaned some money to my relative, I almost called her name. I never got it back. Never got it back. They never asked me for any more money after that. I take that back. They did years later. I brought that up about the money that I loaned. They let it go. You know what they said? Well, you should have reminded me. I did. You ducked and dodged me. But what I'm saying is this is why you got to forgive, and you got to do like this king here. You got to forgive the entire debt. You don't have to. You can just say, okay, I'm going to give you another date to pay my money back. But come on. They ain't going to pay it back. You know this. What's going to happen is they're going to have you preoccupied focusing on that date to come. And you're going to look like a fool on that date looking for some money. No phone call. Nobody's going to answer when you call. Nobody's going to be home again. At least they're going to act like they're not home. When you go by, and you're going to be miserable. Hey, just forgive all the debt. Learn from your experience. Let it go. Move on with your life. This is what I'm saying. So, again, the author say, forgiveness denies the seriousness of your sin, of the sin that was committed to you, or the wrong that was committed to you. Not true. Because forgiveness, as I said before, it's not for the perpetrator. Forgiveness is for you. Yes. It's to help you get on with life. It's to help you keep your sanity. It's to help you continue to love others instead of hating folks. I'm going to tell you this little story here. It's not long. Someone that I know, a relative, needed some money to pay a bill. I let them know that I'm not in the business of loaning money. I'm not a bank. I'm not a financial institution. But I'm going to help you this one time. But I also want you to know this. If you don't change your financial situation that you're in, you're going to be needing help next month as well. In that case, I won't be there for you. But I gave them the money. Did you hear me? I said I loaned them. I gave them the money. I said, pay your bill. I didn't loan it to them. I gave it to them. Guess what? I got peace. I can walk away. I've done a good deed. I can move on with my life. I don't have to worry about anything. I'm not looking at the calendar trying to see when that date's going to come, when they're going to pay me back. It's over. I'm at peace. I'm free. I'm not going to allow you to hold me captive in a false prison. I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm not going to let you do it. If I can help, I'll help. I'm giving it. I'm not loaning. You're not going to keep me in prison. And that's exactly what happens when people you loan money to never pay you back. You're in prison. Hey, do like this servant here. Man, forgive them and let it go. Let me touch on something right quick. I got a few minutes. I told you 1 Peter 1